Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my most ambitious vlog ever. I'm a little worried about this one. Tetra's worried for me, but I decided to start a new vlog to participate in Sci-Fi September. This is a readathon that is going throughout the entire month of September, and it has 4 hosts. The hosts are Jessie from Bow Ties and Books, Kelly, Sajid, and Kathy. I will have all of their channels linked down below. I found this readathon through Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. I absolutely love their channel. The whole theme of September is to read sci-fi, and I will put on screen one of the hosts, Sajid, created this lovely Bing board. It's not bingo because it's only a 4x4, which I think is hysterical. So I will be going off of this board of prompts to guide my reading. There's no like prize if you get everything or anything like that. It's just fun to participate and try to hit some of these prompts. Today is actually August 31st. It isn't September yet, but I really wanted to start today and do this intro clip because I got my ears tattooed and I'm obsessed and I just had to show you, and I'm really excited and I have so much energy because of it. I just had to share that with you. And so since I have so much energy, I thought I'd at least do this introductory clip. Let me just go ahead and show you the book that I am picking up first and why I'm picking it up. So, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. My husband read this book and he closed it once he was done and immediately shoved it at me and said, "You need to read this now." So I said, okay, I will pick it up soon. And he's like, when is soon? So I think he wants to have a chat with me about it. I'm like over 50% done with Project Hail Mary, and I will give you more thoughts when the lighting isn't as bad. But I just want to say something right at this point. In science fiction, can we stop having the conversation about, oh, if we send men and women up in space together, there's gonna be sexual tension? Like, can we stop? They had just had this whole conversation where they're like, I wanted an all-male crew, so there's no sexual tension. I'm like, you know, it doesn't have to be a conversation. Can we just stop having the conversation? Anyway, that's all I wanted to say at this moment. I will give you some more thoughts and feelings tomorrow, but I mean, overall I'm really enjoying it, but just I had to say something about that because it just really bothered me. Good morning. I promised you some more coherent thoughts on Project Hail Mary. You are very precariously set up right now, so if you see some greenery, that's because you're on a plant. The thing about Project Hail Mary that you need to know is that it's better to know as little as possible about the plot and even the character going into it, because I think because the character has amnesia, he can't remember who he is remembering things and telling the reader as well as discovering it for himself along with us at the same time. So I think that him not knowing anything and us not knowing anything, and you know, the reader and the character going on that journey together, is something that this book really excels in, and I think enhances the reading experience of this book. So what can I say without spoiling things or giving things away? So the guy wakes up, he's alone, he doesn't remember who he is, and he finds out he's in a spaceship. What this book excels in is his world building and the science. If you like science, this is the book for you. This is really heavy on the science fiction part, but this is also does a really good job of character. So I am actually really enjoying this book because I think it balances like really heavy science fiction, but also like making me care about our main character as well. because he's alone. We don't really get a lot of other characters. As he is remembering things, there are those flashback scenes, and we get to see his past and see other characters that way. But he's really alone in this book. But it is still interesting and exciting in its own way. Boogie, I'm trying to read. I can't turn the pages with your head right there. When I tell you I was not prepared for this book to completely blow me away, I was not prepared for the emotional roller coaster of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. The second half of this book completely floored me and just absolutely wrecked me. I sobbed so hard during the ending of this book. It was so good. It has such a satisfying ending that and the way that it had concluded made the beginning make more sense as to why the author decided to write in the way that he wrote. So the flashback scenes led up to something at the end of the book. As we're following the current plot, and then we're also following the flashback plot, and both of the plots tie together in the climax of this novel, which perfection, chef's kiss. It was so good. I would die for the friendship that happens in this book. Literally, I would die for them. I don't want to say more than that, but I think nothing gets me more than beautiful friendships in books, and I was not expecting that out of Project Hail Mary. I gave this a full 5 stars. 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I had a long conversation with my husband about it last night. He loved it too. He was so happy. We just geeked over this book for quite a while last night. I'm thrilled with this book. This is gonna be in my top whatever books of the year. This amazed me. I am going to take some time to play video games and listen to a novella. The novella I have on audiobook is, it's 2 novellas by Octavia E. Butler, and it's in a bind-up called Unexpected Stories, which are 2 of her novellas that were never published during her lifetime, and then in 2014, I think, is when they came out. So I'm going to go play some video games, and I will give you a summary and a review of these 2 novellas once I finish them. Hello. Okay, I've read the 2 short stories by Octavia Butler, and I'll give you a brief summary and a review and talk about what prompts they hit for this reading challenge. So the first short story, both of these were narrated by Robin Miles, by the way, favorite narrator ever. So the first story was called A Necessary Being. This follows 2 main characters. This is in a hierarchical tribal society where they have an extreme hierarchy where you are born into a particular role and you have to fulfill that role. And this follows our main character, Tane, who is the How, and the How is the leader of the tribe because she's blue. So that is something to note, that this is like, they are an alien society of some kind, but again, this is a super short story, so not a ton of world building goes into this. There is another character named Tiu, and he is the How of a different tribe, who the 2 of them interact. And that's really all I can say without spoiling things. I thought this was a really good short story. I really liked it. I love Octavia Butler's characters. These characters were really, really great, and I loved Tane as a character. I thought she was fantastic. So A Necessary Being fulfills an unpopular or unheard of book, a classic or older book, a non-human main character, and a short story. And then the second short story in this collection was called Child Finder, and this is about a society in which there are individuals who have psionic abilities, so basically some kind of telepathic abilities, telekinesis. It is really, really short, so it's super not explained very well. And this is about our main character, Barbara, who is a child finder. She's the child finder, which means she can detect children who have psionic abilities and help them hone their powers. This is a super, super short story. It was only 20 minutes on audio, so it's very, very short. So that's all I really want to say. And that was probably my biggest complaint, was this is like a tiny little sliver of a story. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars and A Necessary Being 4 stars for an average of 3.5 for these 2 stories. The prompts that Child Finder hits are unpopular, unheard of, classic or older, non-space, and a sci-fi with fantasy elements, and also a short story. So like 5 prompts. Since I'm having a good time being lazy here and listening to short stories, I am going to continue this short story little readathon that I'm doing and actually listen to the original, which is a short story by Mary Robinette Kowal and Brandon Sanderson, both of whom I have read and loved their books in the past. And this is a sci-fi novella, and I really don't know much of anything about it, which is probably for the best since it is a novella, so I will let you know what I think of it when I am done. I really liked that. I really liked the original. It was so trippy, and it has, so let me give you a synopsis and then I will tell you my review. So it's about this woman wakes up, her name is Holly, and she's in a hospital bed, and she discovers that she is a clone. That is not a spoiler. She is a clone created to kill the original Holly, because the original Holly murdered their husband. A little trippy, a little hard to explain, but that's kind of the basic synopsis. So clone Holly, the main character, has 4 days to kill her original, otherwise she dies too. So it is a high stakes, fast-paced sci-fi thriller, and honestly I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot more. Towards the middle I was like, okay, this is like just okay, but the ending actually really impressed me a lot. I really liked it. So I ended up giving this novella 4 stars. The one thing I didn't like about it was that it was an audio-only production, and they added a ton of music and like sounds to the production, which I actually did not enjoy at all. I found it distracting, especially because there was one scene in particular where Holly goes to a club and there's loud music playing and there's a fight scene happening, so there's this loud, weird music playing in the audiobook and very fast-paced description of what's happening, and I was just like, I would rather read this, to be honest. So I kind of wished I'd read a physical copy of this instead of listening to an audio version, but it's an audio-only production. So I really liked it. 4 stars. And as for prompts, this counts as a sci-fi book set not in space and a short story. it does not really hit any of the other prompts. Hi, I'm in my car. Let me do a quick update. It is 1 week into September, and I am starting another book. It is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, and to be honest, I have started this book 3 times before in the past, and I always get to the same point about 70 pages in, and then I give up because the first 70 pages are boring. And I've talked to my friend about this, and she's read it before, and she's like, once you get past like the first 100 pages, it's really, really good. And so I'm gonna give it one more try. It has to do with a planet that is androgynous, and every person can choose their sex during mating time, so they can choose to be male or female for procreation, I should say. And this follows our main character Genli, who is trying to have this planet join basically like a intergalactic federation of planets, and the king gets pissed at him and kind of banishes him, as well as a outcast politician, and they have to go on kind of an adventure together. This administrative envoy, Genli, and this politician who is out of favor at court. So that's what the story is about. One thing I will note is that this was written in 1969. I'm interested to see what the discussion around gender and gender non-binary-ness is, and I've already noticed that the main character defaults to he a lot of the time, or whenever a person is behaving in a way that is seen as either masculine or feminine, the character is referring to them as a he or a she, depending on what they're doing, which I'm not really a big fan of, and the default of the masculine gender is not my favorite. But this is also in the 60s, so I'm sure for the time this was very like forward-thinking and open-minded. So I'm interested to see how the conversation around gender and gender nonconformity and androgyny is going forward. Not to be dramatic, but I finished The Left Hand of Darkness, and I hated it. I would have DNF'd it if I didn't want to finish it for my friend. My friend had read it, and so I finished it for her, but I was so bored the whole time. The plot doesn't happen until like 75% into the book, and it's a lot of politicking, and it's a lot of like esoteric like discussion of like humanity and like psychology and all this stuff, and it did not work for me. One star. My dog's just got a mouse. He was so tiny and small, and he didn't die yet. And I was too chicken to kill it, so I picked it up with a plastic bag and brought it outside my yard and just like put it in my grass and said, okay, well, if he lives, he lives. If he dies, I'll throw him away, I guess. Why are they like this? While I'm trying to recover from my dogs being absolute dicks to mice, let me tell you about what I'm reading now. I am picking up A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. Now, I love the other works by Sylvain Neuvel. He wrote Sleeping Giants, which is part of the Themis Files, trilogy, which is a sci-fi thriller trilogy. Absolutely loved it. He also wrote a short story called The Test, which was also really good, also pretty messed up. And this is his newest release, which is the start of a new series, the Take Me to the Stars series. So what this is about is basically there's a family who knows what's going to happen somehow, as in like they know what the future holds, and they are basically trying to work through time to get mankind to start exploring space to save mankind. I think there's gonna, you know, in their timeline, something happens and humanity is going to perish unless they can get off world. And so this one family has been working for generations and generations to try to speed up scientific thought faster and faster and faster and get to space travel early. That's all I know. It's a little hard to understand because I don't know if these people are actual time travelers or how they know the future, but they do. So I am very intrigued. I started reading this. I read one chapter and it starts with a bang. Mouse update. The mouse made it! Yay! I put it in a little grassy area and I was like, it was still breathing, and when I went back to check on it like an hour later, it was gone. So I like to think it got away. It recovered and got away instead of some bird of prey getting it. So that's the mouse update. I also wanted to pop in and say I am also starting a new audiobook, a short novella called The Haunting of Tram Car 015 by P. Jelly Clark. And this is set in an alternate Cairo where Egypt was never colonized. So, but it's set in like 1912. So it's like a little bit of Afrofuturism and historical fantasy kind of rolled into one. And this is also classified as steampunk. So it might be a little too fantasy for this sci-fi readathon, but I'm counting it because it's steampunk and Afrofuturism. I hope that counts. Oh well. So I am going to listen to that as well as keep reading a history of what comes next physically. Hi everyone. I'm here with a little bit of an update. I don't remember if I talked about The Haunting of Tram Car 015, but I read that short little novella, and honestly, I don't think it was the novella. I think it's me. I just didn't have a good time reading it. The issue with me is I am an extreme mood reader. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And so doing this month-long sci-fi challenge is a challenge for me because it feels like at this point it is now September 12th. And I've been reading sci-fi so much, and I've been having a really good time, but at this point I think I'm a little bit burnt out on it and I need to read something else because I'm just like feel like I'm forcing it, and I never want to force myself to read. This is supposed to be for fun. This is my new haircut. We actually kind of liked the grown out blonde look. A little bit of a fade. Some barber details. Living my best life. I love it. I go to a non-binary hair stylist in Minneapolis, and I absolutely love them. They are super chill, a little bit of an introvert, knows when to make small talk and when to just be chill together and have quiet time. And I absolutely love them, and they are so reasonably priced. That is the key. Feeling like I'm not ripping somebody off, but at the same time getting a good deal with, you know, giving them an excellent tip. A little bit of a reading update with the new haircut. I am reading A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel, and I'm only 60 pages in, and I just wanted to give a warning that this book is very violent, like extremely violent. Here we are with an update for Sci-Fi reads. So I am about 50% into A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. So I'm enjoying the plot, I'm enjoying the intrigue, but I talk a lot on this channel about narrative distance. So how close the reader is to the point of view or the narrators. And this is written in such a way that we feel super disconnected from the character. And we're following multiple characters. And for some reason, it just, to me, feels very distantly written. We do get in their heads, we do get their thoughts and feelings, but for some reason, it's just like, we don't get enough time with the characters to care. Because we have shifting perspectives, I don't have as much of a connection to the characters. One example that I can pull off the top of my head is our main character, Mia, meets another woman named Billy, and they smoke a cigarette together, and a couple chapters later, we've moved past, we've, followed a couple different characters in those chapters, and then the next scene we have of Mia and Billy is they've been in a relationship for a while. So we don't get to see that relationship built in the text at all. This jumps time quite a bit. And so I think with the time jumping, the character jumping, and the way that it's written, I just feel not as connected to these characters, which is a real shame, because I am enjoying the plot quite a bit. Another writing quibble I have is this author doesn't use quotation marks for when people are talking. Let me see if I can pull something up. Here's a page where a bunch of characters are talking, and it's just like dash this person's saying, and there are no dialogue tags at all. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, it's just dash what they say, and it doesn't give you any dialogue tags, so you have to know through context clues who's speaking. So that's really strange, and I don't really like that. So yeah, having kind of complicated feelings with this book. Y'all, I'm not happy. My beautiful, adorable rescue dog, she started chewing on my books. Well, first she ripped out my bookmark, chewed some holes in it. Look at what she did to the book I'm currently reading. I just bought this. This is brand new. Just finished this. And it felt like a big prequel. You don't get any answers about who these women really are. Are they aliens from another planet? It's unanswered by the end of the book, which I think is stupid and really unsatisfying. I didn't like the execution. I didn't like the pacing. I didn't like the writing style, and I wasn't super connected to these characters. I don't know. I didn't really, I sort of enjoyed it, but I'm left really unsatisfied. So what do I rate this? I don't know, a 2 stars. I don't know. This was not my favorite. Well, since I finished A History of What Comes Next, the only other sci-fi book that I own or even have from the library at this moment is Adulthood Rites by Octavia E. Butler, which is a sequel. And talking about this book would spoil the ending of book 1. So I can talk about book 1, but I don't know how much vlogging I can do with this book in particular. So in book 1, it's called Dawn. We're following Lilith, who wakes up on an alien ship, and she's being held hostage. And the aliens tell her that they rescued her after the humans went to nuclear war and decimated 99% of the population. The aliens came along and rescued whomever was left, and now it's been a couple hundred years, and they've been able to keep the humans alive in like a cryogenic sleep, and they want the humans to repopulate their planet, which sounds hunky-dory, except the aliens want something in return. And in true Octavia Butler fashion, it's really messed up with the characters and the themes and whatnot. So I did enjoy book 1. I had a lot of complicated feelings about it, just like I do about mostly all Octavia E. Butler's books, but this is the sequel. And this follows, can I even say, it follows Lilith's child. I'll give you that. It follows Lilith's child, and he is on the planet. He's back on Earth, and shenanigans, I'm assuming, happen. Hello, and welcome to the end of September and the end of this very long video. I have edited this whole thing up to filming this ending clip, and it's a long one. It took me a long time to edit, and so I hope you all enjoy this Sci-Fi September reading challenge vlog. In this little portion of the video, I'm going to be going through the 8 books I was able to read. Let's just start with my least favorite and go to my most favorite. First, unfortunately, the one that I did not like the most was The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I gave this 1 star. This was a pretty big disappointment for me. I thought it was boring, thought it was too political. It was written in a very dry style. I didn't appreciate the conversations around androgyny, gender non-binaries, and that sort of thing. It just wasn't for me, unfortunately, but hopefully you will get something out of this if you choose to read it. Next, we have another book I didn't particularly enjoy, and that was The History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. This was probably the most disappointing read of this entire month. This felt like a giant prequel, and I didn't enjoy the pacing, the writing style. The characters felt very distant, so I wasn't connected to them in any way. I sort of enjoyed the plot, which is why I gave it 2 stars, and this is gay. So I gave it a pity 2 stars, but it really just did not work for me. Another 2-star read for me was The Haunting of Tram Car 015 by P. Jelly Clark. And I read this because of the steampunk elements, so that's why I read it, but it was more on the fantasy side, and I don't really think it really fit the sci-fi nature of this challenge. So it does tick the steampunk checkbox, but not really. And this is set in an alternate Cairo that was never colonized. And I was reading this like kind of a bad time, so I don't know if it was me or the book, it was a novella, but it just didn't really stick with me, and it wasn't super memorable. I'm like even having a hard time remembering what it's about, other than some supernatural being in a tram car and a detective on the case. So yeah, another 2-star read. And then we have the 2 Octavia Butler short stories, A Necessary Being and Child Finder. And I did enjoy both of these. I gave one of the stories, I gave Child Finder 3 stars and A Necessary Being 4 stars, so 3.5. I think the biggest complaint is that they were a little short and I would have liked more out of both of them, but that is the nature of short stories. But I think for short stories, I think these did have some success with these. Now we're finally getting into some of the best things that I read this month. So let's just start really quick with The Martian. So this probably comes as a surprise because I didn't vlog about this, but this is a book that I was rereading as I was falling asleep, and I enjoyed this quite a bit. I think when I originally read this, it was a 5-star read, and maybe now it's more of closer to a 4-star read. And the reason is I just found Mark Watney a little bit more annoying upon reading this book a second time, but I still had a good time with this book and still enjoyed the plot and the high stakes scenario of it all. Then we have another Octavia Butler, and that is Adulthood Rites. I did manage to finish this and ended up giving Adulthood Rites 4 stars. I think this sequel is a little bit better than book 1 in my opinion, because book 1 just kind of freaked me out a little bit with the controversial themes and it, world building that was making me uncomfortable. But since that was already established in book 1, I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I was able to not necessarily see past it, but I knew what to expect going into book 2. So I think I did enjoy this a little bit more than Dawn. And the other 4-star book short story that I read was The Original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal. I thought this was great. I loved the trippiness of this. I loved the themes. I loved the clone aspect. I just wish it was a physical copy. I wish I had this as like a book to consume, because some of the audio elements were really jarring and actually kind of hurt the story in my opinion. And I appreciated the open ending, but not everyone is going to. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And of course, very quickly, I won't talk too much about how much I loved Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, but this was my favorite thing I read this month. This was powerful, the friendship was incredible, the pacing was great, the execution was fantastic. I already said so much about this in my section of the vlog, but I just am still kind of in awe of this book, and I will reread it, and it is going to be on my favorites of the year list. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. If I can recommend anything from this video, I recommend Octavia Butler in general as an author. Any of her books are incredible, and Project Hail Mary, in my humble opinion. So let me really quick just say which of the prompts I was able to fulfill. So I was able to fill up the majority of my bingo board: an unpopular or unheard of, a classic older book, a sci-fi book not set in space, a sci-fi book with fantasy elements, a sci-fi book with a robot or an AI presence, an alien presence, a queer LGBTQIA+ sci-fi, non-human main character, a short story, a popular, hyped book, a steampunk book, or a book recommended to me. The ones I missed were a time travel story, a sci-fi set in the global south, a contemporary novel with sci-fi elements, and water. I wasn't able to accomplish those 4 prompts, but all in all, a fairly successful month with 8 titles under my belt. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this entire video. If you made it here, I appreciate you all, and let me know what you read in September
and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.